Hello and welcome. Today we're talking about Industry 4.0, what it is, how it works, and should you really even care. And I'm going to reveal a small, actually kind of a big thing about Industry 4.0 that I had no idea about until I really went down the rabbit hole. So stick around because things are definitely going to get batshit crazy. Okay, first let's cover the basics. What is Industry 4.0? Now, there's a lot of different definitions out there, and I'll get to that in a minute, but what it basically means is the fourth industrial revolution. I don't know about anybody else, but I guess I must have slept through 2 and 3. Now, this alone was a bit of a surprise to me, but the rabbit hole goes deeper. Much deeper. I'm getting ahead of myself, though. I was going to try to define Industry 4.0, and I would love to define it for you. The trouble is, you can't find a congruent definition out there anywhere that really makes any kind of coherent sense. At least as far as I'm concerned, you can't. What you do find are a bunch of different kind of takes on Industry 4.0 that really lean more towards concepts and theories about what it sort of is and how it's sort of working and how it sort of defines this ecosphere and all that kind of jargon. Since that's the case and we kind of need a baseline to go from, let's go with the Chicken McNuggets version and take Wikipedia. Wikipedia states that the Fourth Industrial Revolution, 4IR, or Industry 4.0, conceptualizes rapid change to technology, industries, and societal patterns and processes in the 21st century due to increasing interconnectivity and smart automation. Now, if that sounded like a word salad to you, you're not alone. It did to me too. But before I get to sort of naysay-y, let's go ahead and dig just a little bit deeper. In practical terms, and this is the practical terms, what Industry 4.0 is about is having enough technology to have interconnectivity within your plant, series of plants, or maybe even a global supply chain, such that if there's a shortage or an issue or some kind of error anywhere within that whole ecosphere, then the ecosphere can alert itself to those other, kind of small pieces within it to let it know that something's going on there. And then ideally, it can even rectify that or remedy it. Whether human intervention is needed or not is kind of up for grabs. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But again, ideally in this situation, the alert is sent up autonomously. It's just an automatic thing. Someone doesn't have to be standing there to see that, this bin has run out of material or that machine is down. It sends these signals throughout its own interconnected devices, and the smart plant or the smart ecosphere just kind of uses things like artificial intelligence and augmented reality and, big data and the Internet of Things to basically get this information amongst each other and then find a remedy for it or alert the right human being who can. If that all sounds kind of convoluted, it's because it kind of is. But again, let's keep moving. Let's try to make this a really simple example. We already have this in my industry with industrial robots. In fact, the robots I represent already offer this as a feature. What I'm talking about is something where you have predictive failure analysis, okay? And what that means is that you monitor, in a robot's case, in an industrial robot's case, you monitor the amp draw on the servo motors that are inside that robot. And what you're looking for is that amperage to increase as it naturally will over time. This just happens as motors wear out, which they're just going to. And based on all the accumulated knowledge from past robots deployed in the field that we've collected over, failures and all that stuff for so many years, we can tell when an amperage point hits a certain level, we know that there's X amount of time before that robot's about to have a failure. And we can use current technology to email somebody, text message them, or otherwise alert a person who's in charge of that process to let them know, hey, this robot's going to fail in a little bit. Before it fails unexpectedly, why don't you come over and do a preventative maintenance, repair whatever part it is that's, about to go down, or just replace it overall and be on your merry way. Crisis averted. Another more complex example of this might be if you have like an automatic retrieval system for your parts, okay, for your inventory and parts. And let's say one of your bins is running a little bit low of material. Now, let's also say that automatic storage and retrieval system is also connected to your ERP, and that's connected to big data. Now, with the connectivity to big data, when that part, starts to run low or that material is running low in that bin, then maybe your ERP system can go to big data and say, hey, we're low on this part. And big data says, hey, instead of just ordering more of those parts, you should know that the place you're getting them from has a big price increase. And in fact, there's a shortage of that material somewhere over in the region where it's normally gotten. So maybe you should start looking at this other supplier over here. And, maybe they're a more like equitable company to deal with or something like that. And we should use them for our next order instead. In fact, maybe we should use them permanently. Okay. Now, that might sound a little bit far-fetched, but that is actually one of the defined visions for Industry 4.0. Now, I know that sounds like I'm getting a little out there, but again, stay with me. Now, like I said earlier, ideally, all this data exchange is happening automatically using things like the Internet of Things, like I said, big data. We're using things like artificial intelligence. We're using the cloud. All that kind of stuff is sort of interweaving to make all this data transfer possible. There's another leg of Industry 4.0 that has more to do with things like simulation, using things like augmented reality, using digital twin to sort of set up a process in virtual reality before you actually deploy it in the real world. And this is getting more and more popular. And again, this isn't really anything big and new. I mean, this is, offline simulation and stuff has been done for a long time. So this isn't exactly breaking the mold here. Now, in theory, all of this interconnectivity and this virtual environment, working would mean that efficiency would be optimized, worker exposure to hazard would be minimized, profits would be maximized, and all of this would be done with the least amount of effort and risk necessary. And they might just say, you know what, screw it, let's just jack up wages another $50 an hour. We're on a roll anyways. Now, while all this sounds really good, I'm not 200% on board. And now that's not to say I think it's all junk. I'm all for improving, moving the ball forward, thinking outside the box, and trying new things. And there are certainly things in Industry 4.0 that I can get on board with. For example, you want to track motor amperage draw and you want to, do predictive failure analysis so that somebody can repair a part or a machine before it goes down? Great, that's awesome. You want a bin in an automatic storage and retrieval system to let you know when it's running low on a part so that you can be ahead of the game and ordering more? Perfect. You want a downed machine in a line to automatically let the line know that it needs to divert product to an up-running machine without letting any human get involved and before any of that product can reach the down machine? That's cool as hell. You want big data tied to government involved in business-making decisions? That's kind of where I draw the line. Now, that might seem like I'm jumping ahead of things, but here's sort of the bombshell. That actually is the defined vision of Industry 4.0 as put forth by its originator, Klaus Schwab. Now, if that name sounds familiar, that's because he is the not-so-uncontroversial founder of the World Economic Forum. I had no idea that Klaus Schwab had anything to do with Industry 4.0 until I just stumbled into really trying to learn more about it as an academic thing. I was really trying to find a more technical way to define it and really dig into some details, and I just stumbled ass backwards into this. And now, I'm not picking a team here or drawing necessarily a huge conclusion, so much as I am just pointing out that this is a fairly controversial figure. Any way you slice it, that's just a fact, and I had no idea that he had anything to do with Industry 4.0. It kind of blew my mind. And I am pointing out that it is a fact that one of the visions of the World Economic Forum is to bring government and business closer in cooperation to try to steer cultural and societal directions as best they can towards the vision they see fit. That is in their messaging. And if you ask me, that goal kind of clashes with the entrepreneurial spirit that I bump into on a daily basis. But all that aside, even after all the digging and digging I did to really try to learn more about Industry 4.0 and find something, anything concrete that I could really hang my hat on to say, this is what it means, I couldn't. All I could keep finding was kind of concepts and theories and really academic ways of looking at things. And I went to the World Economic Forum's website and I went through, well, if this guy sort of originated it, how did he see it? And again, it's kind of this sort of ethereal, real kind of mystical thing about there's going to be interconnectivity. There's going to be, we're going to redefine ourselves, and being a human being won't mean the same thing as it did, 10 years ago, and all this kind of really just goofy shit, and it really was. That's really the way it strikes me. It was just a bunch of shit, and I'm and part of the reason I say that is because I'm pretty passionate about working with small to medium-sized businesses in particular. I like working with big businesses too. I just grew up in a, small, medium-sized business family, and I kind of have a soft spot for that. And it drives me nuts when I see these kinds of overgrown sort of marketing campaigns that tout these sort of big academic and ethereal, kind of ideas and everything, and then put it under a subheading and blast that out to everybody. Because it doesn't apply very well, particularly in a small business. I mean, I used to work with places that are two-man shops, two guys in a machine shop. I'm not saying that they can't have technology in their shop and that some of the stuff that they're doing now isn't a product of bigger companies investing in technology and then that investment starting to make things cheaper and it trickles on down to smaller businesses. I get all that, and that's totally fine. But what I am saying is that I feel like this is maybe spinning a little faster than people are ready for. I kind of get the impression that this is really for, it's big change for big business, and it's not necessarily very scalable to smaller businesses right now. But I'm concerned about the impact it's going to have on them, and I'm also concerned, as I normally am, with any kind of, I don't want to say misdirection in marketing, but I do want to say sort of obfuscation in marketing, that the message can get really muddied and it can get really kind of either watered down or hyped up too much. And that can lead to a lot of misunderstanding and, in the end, poor investment choices, poor investment guidance to smaller businesses. And that gets my ire up a little bit. That starts making me wonder and making me think twice. So, while I'm all for the practical benefits of technology being pushed forward and the things that fall under Industry 4.0 in that, sort of umbrella, I also believe that those ambitions have to be tempered with a very stout wisdom, lest good intentions end up leading to disaster. And if you can tell, I'm kind of alluding to where a lot of that tie-in could possibly go, because I can't see the future. And to be honest, in some ways, it's hard for me to imagine industry being that intertwined with, I don't know. It seems like capitalism basically, it's been the best model so far. Seems like it wouldn't let that happen. But at the same time, it also makes you think about what road we're headed down and what things are going to look like in another 20 years. So like I said, I think it's great when technological advances take place and people try new things and advance and everything. I'm just also very keenly aware of how those kinds of ambitions can quickly blind people to issues and even outright calamity if they aren't held in check with some simple common sense and relying on the old KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. That's it for today's episode of Bot Shit Crazy. I appreciate you stopping by, and we will see you next time.